Firerose, and this is No One Asked Her, where we speak the truth anyway. Today, I'm very grateful to be joined by my extraordinary guest, Lee Trink. He's an entrepreneur, an entertainment technology and media visionary, the former president of Capitol Records, and a phenomenally powerful voice for truth in the ongoing smear campaign against Israel and the Jewish people. So, welcome to the show, Lee.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah, same.
I've been a fan of your content for a long time.
Oh, wow,
you have
thanks.
such incredible insights. I mean, like, how do you come up with when you're making a video and you're just thinking about, like, what can I say to the public that is actually going to make an impact and help with this insane information war that we're dealing with every day?
It happens kind of different ways. Sometimes there's just something happens in real time and I just have almost like a visceral reaction to it. And ideally I try and get it out as quickly as possible, get it out of my head as quickly as possible. Other times I'm like tracking a story and I definitely don't want to reiterate what people have said already. If it's been said, then I don't need to say it. It's kind of like that. It's not that I don't want to be like a copycat or something. It's just that it feels like there's nothing to add. But I do think that oftentimes I have like a new framing of an issue or something that I think sits at the core of the issue that maybe people are talking around and haven't just like brought it to that particular point. Yeah. And then sometimes, you know, and this is interesting with some of the feedback that I get, I think sometimes I want to say something that like I think people have in their head. Yes. They just haven't heard anybody say out loud.
Totally. You're saying out loud what everyone's thinking, but taking the actual courage that it takes to speak out publicly on these issues that, I mean, it's absolutely wild. Like every single day it blows my mind, the level of ignorance and hate out there just for basic truth. It's like just to get to the baseline. It's like, you know, so difficult, you know, so my question is, how do you find the courage and not get worn out and burnt out on sort of just, I mean, it's like every single time I make a post about Israel or anti-Semitism or anything like that, I am flooded and sort of overwhelmed in the most grotesque way, which is how much ignorance and hatred there really is. And I'm not saying that there's certainly not the majority of people. I think most people fundamentally are good and they, you know, it's the loud minority, but they're so vicious and so dangerous in their rhetoric. Like, how do you ever fear? Do you ever fear for your safety? And how do you combat that?
So look, for the number one, I genuinely don't look at it like courage. I really don't. And I understand that we're in this very strange time in history where speaking truth is viewed as courage. It never ceases to blow my mind, but I don't feel that way. I really don't. And it's like almost heartbreaking when people say it to me, because people do, but it's just like, no, there's a lot of, you know, I like to think I have courage in a lot of things, and I live a life where courage is kind of paramount. Yeah. But I don't look at this like I look at this more as duty than courage. Yes. And you know, so it's just always like again, I hear it, but it's just always it's strange because I don't, when I line it up against like what I think is like real, takes real courage, I think that this pales in comparison. Regarding the hate, I like it, as strangely as it sounds.
That is the best take ever.
I mean, I do.
I mean, yes.
You know, last Valentine's Day, I shot a video, a Valentine's message to my haters.
That's
and I said,
amazing.
You're like the wind beneath my wings. You're like, I do
love that. Yeah.
And maybe because we're in this period where, you know, speaking truth is in short supply, that, you know, that it's validation. I feel like it's validation. Yeah. I take none of it personally, like whatever way people can, you know, talk about my big nose or, you know, like I have a
perfect nose.
I mean, I have a big head, so
absolutely insane.
It fits the size of my, but like, I don't care. funny enough, there's some people that do it all the time. Like I already know the accounts that send me like vicious DMs and all sorts of things. And
the classic haters that you just wonder, like, what does it feel like to have the compulsion to write something so negative on a stranger's page? Like, I've never had that, but I'm so fascinated. What must that feel like?
It's true. And forget about once, okay, you see some post, it pisses you off and you jump in there. But like for somebody, like I have some people that send me hundreds of messages.
Wow.
And every once in a while I'll respond and sometimes I'll get into, I don't do it as often as I used to. Like I used to argue with people in the DMs for fun, just,
that like, I mean, sometimes it's just like begging to be answered. I mean, it's just, it's so obviously, it's the demonic inversion, and it's like this twisted, it's taking everything true, spinning it around, and then blaming the actual, I mean, I hate using the word victims, but it's actually victims in the situation.
Darvo, right? Like it's a strategy.
Exactly.
Right? It's a long-term strategy.
Exactly. It is Darvo on a global scale. Yeah. And so like, I mean, the fact that you have that insight is really interesting. And I'm curious to know, like, do you have any personal experience with being on the receiving end of Darvo, or how did you learn that?
So, I spent my career in media, right?
Yes.
Mainly the music business. I've worked with some very controversial people. Mm-hmm. I will say that probably the best experience around both dealing with hate, speaking kind of truth to power, and being comfortable with any kind of vitriol or opposition is, I've worked with Kid Rock for a long time.
I love Kid Rock. He seems like the coolest, most lovely, down to earth guy imaginable.
He's the guy. He's as advertised.
That's incredible.
He is as advertised.
Yeah.
And there's different facets to him, but he's and you see it all publicly.
Yeah.
He was the first artist that I broke in my music industry career.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
So you were the president of Capitol Records?
I was, yeah.
I mean, this
was after that, but
it's such a mic drop. I mean, that's insane. How did you get to that place in your career, and what drove you that strongly to achieve such high levels of success?
I mean, I sort of bulldozed my way into the music business, and I didn't have any connections. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't, I was a lawyer beforehand and didn't want to work in law. So I kind of just like really, as far as getting to my first record label job, I talked my way in.
Yes.
I got somebody to hook me up with an interview and talk my way in, and kind of just figured it out, and was the first experience where I took kind of ignorance and turned it into an asset.
Yeah.
And again, it's unusual. We're talking about Kid Rock. Kid Rock is he's the first artist that I broke. And it was the greatest Cinderella story I'd ever been part of in the music business. And I've been part of several Cinderella stories.
That's extraordinary. I'd love to hear like what happened. Did you know immediately like this guy's got it?
So I heard the demos and I loved it. I really and interestingly, at that time he hadn't written a couple of the first hits that we had. But I just thought I just got it, and I felt like this is what at the time alternative radio needed. It was in this weird state. That being said, the powers that be at the label, this was Atlantic Records, they hated him. They hated him. There was no budget.
That's so classic.
They never wanted to talk about him.
Wow.
He was on the sub-label, a small sub-label called Lava. And it was, I was such a nuisance. And part of being a nuisance was I didn't even know where I was in the food chain of the organization.
Yeah.
And so I stepped on toes all the time. Like I think that if he hadn't broken, I'd probably have been fired because I was really, I aggravated a lot of people.
Yes.
But I also was like unwilling to listen to the so-called experts. Like that's another big theme of my life. Like so-called experts don't know anything. Like really self-described experts
that is a nugget of true wisdom right there.
It just is true, and this was the perfect example. Like My boss hated him. He was never a topic of conversation in the planning meetings.
Yeah.
And it didn't stop me. And I ended up being right by it,
How long was that period between you being like persistent and him breaking?
So fairly soon there were signs, at least for me, there were signs of success. Took longer to prove those signs of success to the company for them to start. Like they were late because again, their bias of like just not liking what he was about, not understanding the music.
Yes.
But for me, I'm good at reading little indicators. Like I've that's been also a hallmark of my career of like just kind of like reading the tea leaves, like reading the room, reading little data points. And so for me, it supported my viewpoint. And then, so as far as like, what did it took, like he, I kind of recognized like the moment where he turned into a big star was like MTV. He performed at the MTV Awards in 99.
Wow.
And, the record had come out in like August of 98. So it was like a year and a half until like we really cracked the whole thing wide open.
Yeah.
But even I would say 9 months, a year into the record cycle, there was real success. We were having real success.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And like in terms of your time in the music industry, are you still involved in any capacity, or is that something that you're?
I mean, he and I are still close, and we worked on a little side project a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But it's a small business, so I'm still connected to it. But I'm not involved in anything anymore.
I'm very curious then, only because you answered that. What would be your honest take on the music business right now?
I wouldn't enjoy. I mean, there's a reason why I'm not in it. Like, I don't think I would enjoy it at all.
Yes,
I think it's when I was running labels and participating, it was really, even the business was much more of an art form.
Yeah,
like where even Kid Rock and like other successes of mine. Were based on belief, like just pure belief.
Yes.
There was little to no data about even along the way of like, it was very hard to make analysis. Like I explained to people sometimes, we had a thing, there were like literally in Atlantic Records, a big label.
Yes.
We had 3 guys in a room that spent all day calling record stores back when there were record stores and asking how they were selling.
Yeah.
And literally would deliver a piece of paper to us with like either a smiley face stamp or a frowny face stamp. And that was how sophisticated the data was for us to make decisions.
I actually love that so much. It's so, like, I mean, so you obviously see a problem with the fact that right now it is such a mess in terms of like the ability of the top executives to actually discern for themselves what is good and what is not without, I
mean, look, on some level, maybe it's easier to run a business when you run it by the numbers.
Right.
But I think that there's a couple of things. One, besides not being fun, right? You're in it, yes, I went to the business because I wanted it to enjoy myself, but it's a business, right? It's show business, not show fun. But I think that the thing that we really lose is that if you just go by the data of what people like today, you tend to just drive towards lowest common denominator. Like what ends up being popular, like I would say even all like the successes that I was part of, they didn't fit the current landscape. Like Kid Rock didn't fit then.
Right.
We were leading where taste was going to go.
Yes.
We weren't doing something based on existing taste.
Absolutely.
We were saying this is what and those successes of mine were always the massive ones, right? So he went from Vilified to, we sold like 14 million records of that one, so, and I've had other experiences like that too, where like the last artist that I broke, this was at Capitol, was Katy Perry. Katy Perry was dropped by 2 labels. Yeah. And so
she was? I didn't know that.
Columbia.
That's incredible.
And some smaller label. And it didn't stop us, right?
Yes.
It didn't stop us, and part of
it was it like a God-given instinct? What was it about these artists that you knew that the industry didn't know yet? And if maybe it was during this time instead of then, that
sometimes that's it too, right? Yeah. Timing matters, but like I think what we were clear on was like, she was a star. She did not walk in also with any of those hits. And the challenge were how are we going to get a hit? Like that was pop. So
is she a songwriter at all?
She is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She is a songwriter.
Wow.
Yeah. No, she co-wrote all of the big hits.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
No,
I love her music. I don't know really anything about her like story or anything. I just, enjoy her phenomenal music. But,
yes. So, she's a songwriter, and, she ended up writing a couple of songs with Dr. Luke.
Okay. Yeah.
This was like, he had some big success. Pink was like his big success.
Yeah.
But it's really the Katy Records that did it.
Yeah.
But it was challenging, right? Pop is super high stakes, very expensive to launch. And those records that we did with Dr. Luke, even those were expensive to produce. So it was like $250K just to produce the track. And right after they wrote it,
insanely expensive. $250K just for production and recording.
That's right. That was his fee to do it.
Wow.
And so I wasn't involved in like the day-to-day A&R. I kind of got brought in when we were analyzing like what single to go for.
Did you
the
make
first
any
single.
of the decisions of the?
I did.
Which one?
Well, so what happened was they were, we had a meeting. It was a small meeting, and listened to all the tracks. And I just didn't think we had it. And the song that we did have there was Hot and Cold, which did become a hit.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the front runner. But in my view, I said, it just doesn't feel like a first single. Like first single is so unique. Like first single, the rules around the first single is different. And if you succeed, the next single is much easier. So the bar of what it takes to be successful on a first single is really high. And I think the best ones like capture the essence of the artist. They are, so he was a kid at the time. He's not a kid now. This guy, Chris Anacute, who was like the junior A&R guy that was doing the record. I said, play me all the demos. I said, let's go through the demos. And then he played me this one song that also Dr. Luke wrote. Again, the challenge was $250 to cut it, and they didn't want to spend it. And I'm listening to the track, and I said, Jesus, this is a cool track. Like this, it was like the guitars were heavy, and I thought, man, this sounds like Marilyn Manson could sing over Marilyn Manson, was a big artist at the time. And it was Hot and Cold. I mean, not Hot and Cold, sorry. It was I Kissed a Girl.
Oh, okay.
And I remember I called the manager and I said, I think it's I Kissed a Girl. I said, I think that's it. And,
was it also, I mean, like the controversy of that subject matter being at the time very still like taboo?
It was. Well, it was less about this one controversy. And the other thing is we had just put out an EP around the song "You're So Gay."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which was
I don't think I ever heard that version of it.
And she had performed it on Carson Daly's show, and it was like how we were building buzz with her.
Yeah.
And so, and it was more about like kind of metrosexual at the time. That's what we call like a guy who was very well coiffed and whatever.
Yes, I do remember metrosexual.
So it was about that, But then, so the debate was, can we really follow "You're So Gay" with "I Kissed a Girl"? Like it's maybe too much. My view was, let's stop overthinking it. I Kissed a Girl is incredible.
Yes.
It's like, it has all the hallmarks of like a hit first song.
Yes.
And so we ended up doing it.
And so you made that decision, and then how long was it before she like meteorically rose to the stratosphere?
That track moved pretty fast. I mean, the journey beforehand, it was a year of developing her and doing the EP and doing a lot of stuff, and her going around with a guitar, playing for radio stations and things like that.
Do you think, like, just on that note, do you think that sort of the fact that A&R is almost disinterested now in any type of artist development and only in the data, do you think that's like where the chasm has sort of happened in the music industry, that it's like what you said about the artistry being part of the executive decisions, and now it's almost like only about
you leave it up to the artist. The artist is like until they pass a certain point. Now, look, I get it. On some point, you're running a business, and so why wouldn't you pick from an artist that already has like a social media following where it's a built-in marketing tool?
Yeah,
like. if you've got to choose between an artist that doesn't have it and an artist that does, you can only sign so many a year. Like you're always going to be gravitating. And then because of that, and because in some ways, like, back when in my heyday, it was very hard to build yourself on your own. Now it's not. So the good news is an artist has more control of their destiny than ever. The bad news is because of that, labels have sort of taken that middle layer out. It's not even the A&R part. The A&R part is still potentially there. It's that middle layer of the label that does the artist development of like building them up slowly and doing guerrilla marketing, or really like at what I always called cracking the code, which is looking at the artist, looking at what they're doing right, and how do you like fan that flame? How do you put gas on that fire? And it's not a one size fits all at all. You've got to really look at kind of what's special about that artist, what's working, where are their fans, why are those fans there, and then how do you make more of that? Yeah,
totally, totally. That makes perfect sense. And so like in terms of like when you left Capital and you have this resume that reads like it's mind blowing, honestly, Lee. Like the accomplishments that you've achieved. Right now, you're the founder and CEO of is it Flash Justice?
Yeah, it's like I'm on like my fourth or fifth career or something like that.
Yeah. And can you talk a little bit about Flash Justice and what it is?
Sure. I mean, I've been kind of focused on what's going on with AI for the last few years, and I would say the hallmark of my career is like, I like being on the cutting edge, right? So I did it in music. It's when I went into gaming at a time where like gaming was not something that people talked about. Like when I went into that and told people, they thought, oh man, you really blew it. Or like the music business is a cruel mistress. And so I kind of just like I like doing things that are new. And to me, that's like AI is such a massive opportunity. And somebody brought this idea to me initially and I loved it immediately. It was like, to me, a perfect kind of thing that AI can solve. Like the first product that we have is like small claims court. We're like automating it. It's also like, for me, a return. My first career was a lawyer. I was a prosecutor in Brooklyn.
I was going to say, so that, I mean, it's like full circle, but also using all your skills and knowledge from your legal experience to...
And the branding, right? To me, the branding, like Flash Justice is also like the name I put, it was a different name when I got involved, a name I can't even remember what it was or I couldn't pronounce it, but like, I see the branding of it. I think about it as like, why will people be passionate about it? And it's, what I love about it is it's a tool that will put kind of power in the hands of people that really don't even know what their rights are, don't know how to navigate the bureaucracy. So it's incredible. Like, I think that it's really doing, especially the people that kind of get ground in the wheels of the justice machine a lot, giving them some power back and enabling.
So beautiful.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that aspect.
So it's going to be giving access like to the legal system in a way that people right now who can't afford an expensive lawyer are going to be able to use AI to get that help themselves directly. Yeah,
it's mainly aimed at where people are already trying to do it on their own. Like the majority of legal issues, not like big lawsuits, but like the majority of legal issues, like anything from what our first product is, small claims court, to eviction, to like very simple immigration or employment, like a dispute with your employer. People are doing that on their own.
That's going to be so helpful for millions and millions of people.
That's the goal.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your expertise in branding and your passion for it. How do you segue that then when you're looking at this like massive problem of misinformation when it comes to the Jewish people and Israel and this sort of like information war that everyone who is passionate about the truth has a connection to. Everybody that is seeing what's happening and seeing the mass scale manipulation and the extreme funding from Qatar, the whole thing is absolutely backwards. And then somehow Israel is being blamed, because AIPAC exists on this like tiny scale comparatively, and it's just wild. But the like level of commitment of the average person to the lies is something that I think is like very disturbing, but it's sort of this like nuanced thing, because you're not trying to like directly attack people for not knowing what they don't know, but to be that hateful and that aggressive and that, you know, calling upon violence for something that you know nothing about, and then you're simultaneously accusing the people that actually do know about it of, you know, I mean, the comments I get are like, like, why are you talking about Gaza? Like, go educate yourself, read a book. I'm like, you're literally like, you've never been there. You like, how where do you even begin to change the average person's mind that they've just been brainwashed? They don't even know that they have been brainwashed by a group of terrorists to be mouthpieces for the terrorist agenda. Like, how do you begin branding wise to make Israel and Zionism like it's like Zionism has become a dirty word.
It has been. No, yeah. it's been co-opted. And I think that the challenge in kind of this era of information is it's the small, loud minority that ends up taking the oxygen in the room. And so I think, you know, number one, I think we sometimes think that is the majority of sentiment, and it's not. It's the majority of the people that are speaking out. Really, for the most part, there's a lot of people that are just like, they're just trying to live their lives. They're not as caught up with Gaza and Israel. Now, the dilemma is you go on TikTok and it's something like, 54, pro-Palestinian messages or anti-Israel message for any pro-Israel message. That's hard. So all of a sudden, it starts to filter through in communities like younger people, because younger people are getting their information by TikTok. And TikTok has skewed people's impression. And so that's why we're struggling more with young people. I think if you look at the data, it's that's the place to, where we're really losing badly. I think there's a couple of things if you kind of pull back the lens. One of it is, yes, we've done a poor job at this. Israel has done a poor job.
Do you think is that you believe that like we could have done better, or?
I don't know that it's we could have done better. I think that the challenge is we were caught flat-footed. I think that our enemies in the war on information had been prepared for quite some time. And it's why you see strange things like, the Columbia Students for Justice in Palestine account goes active on October 6th, right? Like, I mean, first of all, it's actually foolish. Like, why do they even do that? It's like, because then you can point to it and then it's another piece of evidence about this grand architecture that's going on. So there is this overall concerted effort. I think, again, I think number one, Israel has never been that focused on telling an affirmative story. I think that Jews and allies in the wake of October 7th were fully reactive and understandably reactive, right? Like there was such things to be outraged about, and that you want to answer, like, and I think it's unfortunately like a little bit of like the Jewish way of like, we want to intellectually answer, what is just a slogan on the other side, right? So, they say free Palestine or apartheid or colonizer.
There's not enough eye rolls in the universe. Like I saw your post about it. We were walking through, Jerusalem, and there's literally every nationality, every color of every person imaginable. Every religion is peacefully embraced and loved and welcomed and honored and given the exact same rights. How is that even a question?
Because truth is they're not anchored by the truth. Like it's another part of our, I don't want to call it a problem, but it's a challenge, is we are anchored to the truth in our narrative. And when your enemy is not anchored by the truth, well, then they can say anything under the sun.
Brilliantly
and they can be reductive by just saying colonizer, right? Like, and then our natural kind of inclination is like, a 700-word Talmudic response to it. And it's like, it's people just checked out.
It's like if you bring the facts to somebody who's committed to misunderstanding you and committed to like a lie, whether it breaks my heart when I have had, conversations with people in my life who are good people. They are fundamentally like good-hearted people. And I know this, but they, are not informed on the subject, and they have only been, picking up this sort of very distorted and incredibly dangerous rhetoric from the mainstream media, as well as all of what you talked about online. And they'll say something like, just absentmindedly, like, oh, what those Israelis are doing, the genocide. And it's like, where do you even begin? Because you're literally like, you're having to explain to someone with love that they've been fooled by terrorists. I just don't even know how to begin. Like to say with love, like what you just said is not only an inaccurate statement, but the actual genocide that is attempted to be committed against the Jewish people, like has been an ongoing thing in the Middle East now. And the only reason that Israel even exists is because it has managed against all odds to rise up against like insurmountable pressure and insurmountable aggression towards it, and build a military like structure that can defend itself, which is a literal miracle.
Israel is a miracle for many reasons. I think if you're having a conversation with somebody who is what I'll call an honest broker, right? Like somebody who is tethered to the truth and may just be misinformed. To me, the part of the way to do that is like, I would almost like recommend, like the Socratic method from like law school, I remember, of like just asking questions like, okay, you say there's a genocide. Like, what's your definition of genocide?
Yes.
And because you'll start to understand where the opening is to change it, right? Like most people who say genocide don't really understand the technical definition or the legal definition. And so they're like, it's a feeling, not a fact. And so I think that's how you do it. When it's somebody who's just interested in shouting Free Palestine.
Yes.
Honestly, there's no use in engaging, even if I've done it in my DMs at times, right? Yeah. But I do think that there's another thing going on, right? Like for me also, like I continue to sort of assess the situation as things proceed. And like, so now I'm thinking, okay, what's next, right? Like it's fine to kind of look at the last couple of years and say, here's what went wrong. Here's what, we could have done better. But I think what's probably more helpful is to say, well, what can we be doing now? And again, like I start with reading the room and then looking at different data points. And my reading of the room is that people are fatigued of hearing about anti-Semitism. And for some reasons that are not great, right? And some reasons that are, right? I also think that a lot of, mainly Jews, maybe some allies too, kind of overuse it to an extent. And when I say overuse it, I've seen people that, I follow their accounts, some of them are friends of mine, where they will attack somebody like, let's take an ally, they will attack, like, I remember like the week before, Charlie was killed, he did that podcast with Megyn Kelly, and they were talking about this issue. They were talking about the issue of bringing up, like, you need to allow people a little room to not be sycophantic and to say, hey, look, I want to question this thing or I want to push back on this aspect. And reflexively, you have a number of people that would go and attack them. And it does
what you're saying
service.
Makes perfect sense. And of course, it's like, well, that's probably because it's a literal trauma response.
It is. And even Charlie acknowledged it. Charlie said it in that thing, right? So like, that's what was so special about Charlie, where he gave people that grace to even understand and to give them, to explain why they would have a rightful, like, of course, listen, every Jew, whatever it is, unless except the as a Jews, those ones that are like on the wrong side.
Yeah.
Everybody's traumatized. Like it's like, how can you not be traumatized by like what has happened to your ethnicity, right, around the world in all different things? And so while I'm glad that he referenced that, we do ourselves a tremendous disservice when that is our reflex.
Yeah.
And we, like allies, I think we appreciate our allies, but when you do that and like it, how could you not say, hey, listen, I'm putting my neck out here for not my people, for your people, and I do it with a full and open heart, and you're going to attack me for any time I step out, like color outside the line somewhere. That's not okay.
Absolutely.
And again, and then there's the fatigue that's just like, we've heard it too much, right? Like it's like anything in a news cycle. At a certain point, you're just like, can we just take a break from this subject? I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to open my phone and hear about that all the time.
Yeah.
And whether that's right or wrong, we, at our peril, do we not recognize that and change up our game? And for me, what that means, and I'm actually going to make a video about this. I started writing a script about this issue of like, guys, we gotta cool it. And it doesn't mean that there's not anti-Semitism. And it doesn't mean that when there's like really like things like what happened at the Wilshire synagogue, whatever, a week or so ago, and then the week before at the Park East Synagogue in New York, like, okay, you want to call that direct hateful stuff, go run that.
Yeah.
But like in general, to me, what we must do, and there is all the reason to do it now, is to open the aperture up. Either I'll mix my metaphors of either open the aperture up or take the plane to 50,000 feet and talk about how all of this is an assault on Western civilization.
Absolutely.
It's an assault on non-Muslims.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't mean there's not good Muslims, but the problem is there are a high enough percentage of radicalized Muslims, whatever it is. If it's only 5%, that's still, you're talking about 100 million people.
Totally.
Right? And it's more than 5%.
If the majority of the world could understand that every passionate pro-Israel voice is literally fighting for them as well. If they love freedom, if they love their life, if they love their parents and children and friends and siblings, and if they love existence as they know it, that is all we're fighting for.
It's almost like pick any topic that is near and dear to your heart. Is it freedom? Is it democracy?
Yes.
Is it freedom of religion? Is it freedom of expression? Is it like, hey, take your pick.
Yeah.
That is under threat by radical Islam.
Absolutely.
So the video that I was trying to get out today that I'll get out tomorrow has nothing to do with Jew. I mention it at the end, but it's about Christmas. It's about the war on Christmas. I'm sitting here astonished, and I'm not talking about like in America the war on Christmas, which is another just foolishness that's gone on. I'm talking about like the actual violence that's happening against Christmas
there is a
around
war
the world
on Christmas. Absolutely. You're exactly right.
Like what they're doing outside those Christmas markets are the same thing that they're doing outside Wilshire Boulevard Synagogue.
Exactly.
Do
you think, like, what will it take for the average person to make that connection on their own without, if they're not getting infiltrated with great, like interesting and compelling content by voices like yourself and, all the brilliant voices out there speaking the truth, how is the average person, just like their baseline, going to be, of course we protect Israel, of course we protect the Jewish people, of course we support freedom and democracy, and of course we're against radical Islamists taking over our world as we know it. I mean, when is that going to change?
Look, part of the problem is a lot of legacy media won't cover it. They won't cover it. It doesn't fit their narrative. It just doesn't. And
that is so sick.
It's look, legacy media cannot die fast enough for me. I think that, it continues. It's like descent.
Yes.
Like with what the BBC just did with that Trump video.
I literally mentioned that on 2 previous episodes, Lee. Yes.
Like, I mean, honestly, that they should revoke the funding. Unfortunately, the UK is now like has become a totalitarian state.
What
That's a totalitarian state
in the UK.
It's a totalitarian state.
How is it not possible that canary in the coal mine is not waking up the entire West in this most alarming way to be like, guys, we have
the media doesn't cover it. The media won't cover it because, by the way, the media that's not covering it ascribes to all of those things. They want censorship in social media.
It's like I just don't have the ability to even comprehend the desire for most people to fight passionately for their own demise. It is so counterintuitive. Yeah. It's literally again. I mean, I'm incredibly passionate about my own faith in God, and that's a complex story that would take the entire rest of the episode. But in terms of what I fundamentally believe is that God is very loving and is incredibly caring about each individual life that he has created, and the love of life and the sacredity of each person's life is something that it's used against us. Every God-loving person and just every human-loving person, every person who loves the truth, every person who loves goodness itself, it's being used against us because our enemy doesn't care about life itself. That's our enemy literally is willing to sacrifice their own children in the name of destruction of the Jews, and not just the Jews.
And again, we're just the first in line. Like that's all that is we're just first up at bat.
Yes.
This whole Christmas market season. It doesn't take a genius. Usually when I talk about, I read data points, like these are not you don't need to be a super sleuth. You just need to be paying attention and go look at 5 videos of Christmas markets in different countries, and you should be alarmed. You should say, why? What is happening? What is the reason why somebody would need to bring a Palestinian flag and blow smoke bombs outside of a Christmas market in front of family? Like the reason is they're trying to intimidate Christians. They're trying to intimidate families. They're trying to cancel these things. They are trying to erase. They're trying to capture the territory and have Jews hide and have Christians hide. It's much harder with Christians. There's a lot more Christians. There's a lot more ground to cover. It will happen so quickly, Lee. God willing, never ever will they ever reach that level of power. But that is their intention. That is their absolute focus. But where it's working, where it is working today, and this is really the issue, and it's diabolical. So, in this video, I show what the security that they built around this Magdeburg market, Christmas market, the one where last year there were, I think, 6 people killed and like 330 people injured. It's a fortress, right? And building that fortress, forget about the fact that it's just like makes it ugly. You turn something that is beautiful and festive and peaceful, and now you have this like fortress vibe around it. That's astonishingly expensive. And so, maybe the major cities keep their Christmas markets. But the problem is there are hundreds of local Christmas markets that can't afford it. And so what do? They close. And so this year across Europe, there will be hundreds of Christmas markets that will not appear.
That is so tragic.
Yeah. Well,
how do you think that is not like devastating? All of the Christians and all of the people who love Christmas, how do you what's the disconnect? How do they not see that? Or do you think that because the mainstream media isn't amplifying that they don't see it? There's
a few things, and it depends on where you're talking about, right? Because the mainstream media is not telling the story, right? They don't want to tell the story. And then you have some country, take England, for example. And this to me is the starkest example. And Christmas is an easy thing for them to lose. If they are not protecting their children from the grooming gangs for the last 2 decades, the numbers, I think it's impossible to get the number of how many rapes were going on with young girls by Pakistani migrants.
No way.
If they are not willing to protect their children, what is a Christmas market in contrast? Yeah. Like that's how far gone England is. Yeah. And you've got Starmer in charge of, right? You have Starmer as the prime minister who was part of the cover-up.
Absolutely.
You know, back
and
when he was in the
people
judiciary.
being arrested for talking about it on their own social media. No, it is so wild.
If people don't know, UK is now, especially now, they just canceled the mayoral elections. They just canceled the elections. Yep. Because it looked like the Reform Party was winning, so they canceled elections.
You're kidding me.
So, like, once they did that, I'm like, okay, what separates England from North Korea? I mean, okay, maybe that's a little hyperbolic, but
it's not though. Like, you're talking about like. And once again, the demonic inversion and the twisted narrative of like me, if I post something proudly American, I'll get a whole influx of, aren't you Australian and don't you support Trump? And like, what's it, like, how can you like Islamophobia and all the, like, it's like the crazy barrage of insanity that comes towards me for being a proud American citizen is wild.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you another terrible thing that a friend of mine from the music business was telling me. This was like in the wake of Charlie's murder. He had given me a call about, like, listen, unfortunately, the entertainment business, conservatives really can't speak up. I mean, it sounds crazy, but
it doesn't sound crazy. I mean, I basically
you'd be ostracized.
The overwhelming compulsion in me to vocalize publicly my truth. I weighed up, like, spiritually, what is my life going to look like if I stay silent? And what is it going to look like if I speak up? And you know what happened, Lee? I prayed about it a lot, and I literally gave it over to the Lord. And he told me, like, Firerose, if you don't, you aren't the version of you that I created you to be. And there is no question. It's kind of like what you said about the courage. It's like to speak truth against power, and especially against, the massive misinformation war that we're all experiencing. It is fundamentally not a choice if you're committed to the truth. And whether that's coming from a place of faith or just love of humanity, or like whatever that is, like, coming from every single person who has that in like internal God-given instinct. I mean, I believe it's God-given, but it's like if every single person who's committed to the truth over lies actually realize that they like everything that they are is under threat. Everything that they, like, just going about their daily lives, their peace that they don't even realize they're taking for granted, it can all be taken away.
It just erodes. It starts to erode who you are, your soul. Really.
Yes, exactly.
So this thing that he was telling me about was, there was an artist, it was a country artist, and on Instagram had like some American flag, like a picture with the American flag as, I think, maybe the main, like the main icon, the main profile pic. And somebody at the label had said, might be controversial. You might want to think, and you might want to take that out.
Come on. Come on.
Thank God they did not do it. They did not listen. And that's an artist for you. That's an artist following their heart. But the fact that anyone could say that the American flag is controversial, honestly, get the out. Just like, no. Yeah. If you think that's it, you go to remedial class. Yes. Go take a history lesson. Yes. Go figure out, like, it's part of the war on America from within, right? Like, like, and it's unfortunately, like, the younger generation that we're talking about, the ones that have been snookered by the Free Palestine movement are the same ones that have been taught that America is some kind of evil country. And they've only taught the negative things that America's done, and not talked about any of the positive things. Don't talk about what the rest of the world is. A very complicated place. History is also a very complicated thing. Yes. I don't know that there's one glorious altruistic country that's never taken a misstep. Right. But, but it's not only a tragedy, it needs to become unacceptable for people in this country. And, and unfortunately, I don't even know how the government fixes it. Even this government that's motivated to fix a lot of things. I think it's got to be like parents getting involved and understanding what their school is teaching. That's it. Like, parents have to be like the foot soldiers to make sure that people are not being taught. Like, it's crazy that they're teaching kids to hate this country. Yes,
absolutely. I see everything through the spiritual lens, and I genuinely believe that it's the enemy, the devil, Satan, whatever you want to call that, demonic force that is real evil. I mean, evil is as real as light and goodness and truth is. So acknowledging that it exists and acknowledging that it is doing, unfortunately, right now, still a really good job of influencing people's minds in a way that they're not even aware. Like the cleverest trick the devil ever played was convincing everyone he doesn't exist. If people don't realize that there is this opposing dark force that wants to destroy them, and if they can't acknowledge that, then they are susceptible to its infiltration.
For sure.
And I think that it's like educating, not to scare them, but to empower them from a young age to they should they should teach classes so that children can actually study the spiritual and the psychological impact of like evil and terror and all of these things, so that then they're armed with that wisdom, so that they grow into adults.
How about critical thinking? Like, let's start with critical. Like start with even a basic building block, right?
Yes.
Like they're but again, like how are younger kids supposed to even think about that when they're being told from the bulk of media and a lot of kind of leaders. I mean, this is all kind of a ideology that comes from the left, where there are certain things that you can't even have a discussion about.
Exactly.
There are certain things that that questioning it results in you being labeled whatever the negative thing of the category. Absolutely. You're a transphobe or you're a homo, whatever it is. Like, as if there's no nuance in the world, as if there's nothing complicated in this world.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And the words are violence, and it's like look at those the pro-Palestinian marches. You can't engage them in a dialogue. No. They don't want to speak. No. Right. It's part of the dumbing down of of our kids, of like they think the right thing to do. It's like this even goes to back to the holidays here, where you've got some news outlets, some journalists that are saying, no, it's okay to not participate in Thanksgiving or Christmas at your family if you're going to get into an argument with politics. Don't go. It's okay.
Not being able to speak to those that you love about the difficult subjects, I feel like it's essential that people are able to have a compelling and intricate and nuanced dialogue about this stuff. And if the war on freedom of speech itself happens to in the point, I mean, it's happening in England, it's happening in Australia. There are, protests in the street right now in Australia with people waving the Australian flag, which they have been aggressively told not to, and to not, it's the exact same thing. There's an extremely woke, set of, politicians in power there, unfortunately, and it's absolutely skewing the entire culture. I mean, I love Australia. I'm so devastated to see that happening, that my friends are, apart from the extremely courageous ones, are unable to just live freely and talk about basic things like, a man is a man and a woman is a woman. I mean, just basic things that they're villainized by talking about. At the very
least, there's not a conversation yet. That to me shows the absurdity, right?
Yes.
When somebody, if you take a subject matter like, trans in women's sports or locker rooms, and if you're saying there is not even a conversation on those things, you're just intellectually dishonest.
You're not allowed to say, I think it's unjust that a man won strongest woman of the year. I think it's unfair to the strongest woman. Yes.
You want to take the opposite side, side. But to deny the ability to say that just wanting to have the conversation is somehow a phobia.
Yes,
that's the new, exactly. That's the new way to silence people, is to call it. It's like the Islamophobia, right?
Yes.
It's
totally.
With what's going on with the Somali community and the Somali fraud, right?
Yes.
What's the answer? Oh, you were phobic.
Right.
No, actually, no.
Yeah.
We just don't like fraud.
Exactly.
And there seems to be a preponderance from this community. Maybe we should talk about it.
Yes.
Maybe we should have a conversation about what is the reason that this community.
You are so brilliant. And I could literally, I could talk to you for many more hours, and I wish we had more time. It's been so wonderful having you.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
For sure. Thanks
I
for having me.
really appreciate it.
Absolutely.